Hello, everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Serge.
And my name is James.
It's People's Poll Day on a Friday as we switch it up each and every week. That there's a Friday deadline. Southampton Villa tonight, James. So, deadline stream later for James means People's Poll in the morning.
And as ever, the only good thing for me about the Friday deadline is I get a lay-in on a Saturday morning. That's about the only positive for me. I hate this day.
Yeah, I felt like I should give you a line today, but we don't have.
You haven't got time.
Tell me the runners and riders in People's Poll, and there's a clear winner, obviously, and we can get into that. So, what were the options?
Yeah, I'm not going to blag anyone. I've kind of been hinting all week, like, vote for Tottenham when the option goes out, because I think it's what people want to hear at the moment. So, but the other options I kind of put out because I thought they were kind of on vogue with the Tottenham subject as well in terms of potential change of manager. So I think Norwich City are possibly at little bit of a crossroads in terms of, like, if they go to Brentford and get beat tomorrow, don't score,
Season's over,
looks lifeless. It's international break. You could see a change coming possibly, I think, with Daniel Farke. But I also think it's equally possible they just go, no, this guy is the most equipped to get us back out the championship and stick with him. It's not straightforward. And get someone else in who's also going to find it incredibly difficult to keep them up, and they may be worse off next season in the championship. They've got 4 good fixtures left. They've got to do something now. There is no more waiting for Norwich City. Like, they've got to be looking at Brentford tomorrow and going, got to win. Draws no good for him already at this stage. And Newcastle, which I think we're in a position now since the vote to kind of confirm that it does look like Eddie Howe is going to become the new Newcastle United manager.
Provisionally agreed to terms, and it's just now pen to paper. Yeah. If Fabrizio Romano says, here we go, then here we go.
Well, yeah, except when Fabrizio Romano tweeted about Antonio Conte, here we go, I was still a little bit nervous about it. I do not believe it till I see the picture of him holding up the shirt, which got sent to me about 2 minutes before the announcement officially came through on Monday for Tottenham. So he's obviously been a little bit of a whirlwind for our patrons. We've kind of covered a lot of Antonio Conte stuff on Wednesday, but we've obviously got fresh news that we can cover now from obviously a chaotic night of football last night at White Hart Lane, which was truly mad, actually. The one thing you don't expect is to end up effing and blinding during the Europa Conference League game.
No, it's so bizarre.
But in the group stage anyway. And it went from this kind of, you could feel, I went in the ground about an hour before the game, met my mum and dad and a mate of mine, Richie, had a beer in the ground.
I'm going to pause you. Can I pause you just for 1 second?
Yeah, say whatever
you like. Because we're going to get into Tottenham. Just 2 minutes. Because we can while we're here. Just very quickly, 2 minutes.
Who cares about your team,
bro? They do, trust me. The one bit of advice, like I will say it, I'm captaining Salah this weekend. Not because
you saw Dawson and Diop together yesterday, and that does not matter.
I don't know if David Moyes and Declan Rice have a side deal to see if Declan Rice can break the world record for the most minutes played in a single season or something, because he seems to be running him out as often as he can. I know he didn't in the Carabao Cup, but yeah, I'm going to be captaining Mo Salah, and it's just because. We had to bring on the cavalry, right? Second half to get the game over the line and what have you. And I just, it was a good performance from 25 minutes onwards yesterday, but I think I'm going to be captaining Salah this weekend.
Wow. Aren't you the revolutionary, mate?
No, I mean, look, West Ham are top 4 right now, right? So there's plenty of other better options. Like a lot of people will go have a Chelsea player against Burnley. If you've got a Mount or Havertz, you might be considering it because that's the better fixture. But I don't think so. Even if people own Kane away at Everton, you're about to tell us why we shouldn't captain him based on what you saw yesterday. But yes, I'm going to be captaining Salah this weekend. And our game was the early game yesterday. So all finished, all done. All right. It was a draw that felt like a defeat because of the last minute. So that was a great header, Souček. I mean, just do it the other end, bad end. Anyway, It was a draw that felt like a defeat. And then we finished our game. Like, all right, I might try and watch a bit of Spurs, but I was pretty tired. So I was like, I'll just follow it on SofaScore. And I was watching a bit of YouTube. And then Expressions was doing a watch along. So let me dip in, dip out. And at that point, you were 2-0 up. So it was 20 minutes in, and he's talking about sexy football. You're running and riot. And then I switched him off. And then I just followed on SofaScore. And from then on in, 2-0 up, all the way through, it just felt like so Spurs. So it was just, yes, okay, you've got a new manager. They've clearly had a rocket up the arse and started so well. They must have been like, okay, come on, we've got a new system. We've got a setup. Let's just go for it. Come out the gates flying. And then everything after you it's 3-0 up just felt so Spurs, conceding 2 goals, red card. And then it felt like, because SofaScore shows you the momentum of play as well, that after that point, it was very away heavy, and that they were creating a lot of chances.
No
you look
shit.
at the stats. You look at the stats. I mean, this is
actually like that 11, mate.
I didn't watch the game, so this is what someone who's just looking at it from a stats only app-based perspective. And my question to you, I guess it was like, looking at that, was it as comedy as it looked?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So now, explain why. What's happened? Is it a case of same players? And so,
a little, and we'll come on to that. Obviously, was going to say, like, the atmosphere you could feel in the ground before the game was kind of celebratory mood. Like,
yeah, and Conte got a great reception.
I haven't
from what I saw in the highlights.
To a single Tottenham fan who's got any reservations with disappointment, other than.
Oh, it's funny because I have. It's not reservations about the appointment. It's because my cousin's season tickets holder, and I phoned him on Tuesday after it was official, and he was like, "Look, just calm down." He goes, "Before everyone's getting excited that we've got Conte, just calm down. Yes, it's a good appointment, but it's the same squad. So, am I happy? Yes, but just everybody calm down." He wouldn't have reservations about Conte, but he had reservations about like getting hyped up that suddenly things are going to be amazing.
Agreed. So we got this celebratory mood. In terms of, I think the first thing to say is, you've heard the expression, you can take the man out of the place, but you can't take the place out of the man. Like, I actually think this is a little bit like, this is how other fans will feel about Tottenham at the moment. Generally, is you can put Conte into Tottenham, but you can't take Tottenham out of Tottenham. If you understand.
Yeah.
It's a little bit like that. The one thing in terms of Conte and is there reservations about the appointment, I think the serious reservation is that the second he asks for something and he gets told no, he might just walk out the door. And these players might make him walk out the door as well, because we know the man cares a lot about his hair or lack of, right? So, I mean, he's going to pull at his hair a lot, I think. Imagine him start wearing a hat that's glued to his head very soon, I imagine, to stop him doing so, because then players are going to stress him out. The one narrative I think you will have heard over the last few days, which I do not agree with, is the narrative of Conte's in, this is a brilliant squad of players, yada, yada, yada. I'll repeat what I've been saying for a couple of years, and it's the one excuse that I always would have given the last 2 managers. This squad is crap. It's crap. There are so many bad players in that squad. And the one thing I've kind of been screaming for over the last couple of years is like dominant midfield player. Dominant midfielder, absolutely massive. I can look at the way Conte is changing the system, and I can look at it now and go, oh, shit, centre-backs, you need them quickly. Yeah. You're going to need them very, very quickly. So in my research prior to the game, I was finding out that it wasn't necessarily a given that Conte was going to go straight to a back three. We knew that this is what he'd want to do. Eventually kind of imprinted it into Chelsea after this first half defeat, which is kind of common knowledge at Arsenal when they were 3-0 down and then from there, they went and won like 13 or 14 games in a row, which then ironically ended against the Tottenham team managed by Mauricio Pochettino, who also played a back three against Chelsea and nullified their threat on the night. Conte has 2 different ways of doing a back three, and I don't think last night necessarily gives us the answer, and there's a couple of reasons why. So he's obviously gone back three. Basically, he's played 3-4-2-1/3-4-3, determine how you view upon it. my view would be it's more of a kind of a 3-4-2-1, because there's definite defensive responsibility on the two players playing off Harry Kane. Those were Son and Lucas. I mean, after the red card, we very briefly gone and played 4-4-1. And then actually we were getting battered so badly. He's basically taken all the pace out of the team and said, we're going to sit on this. And he's gone 5-3-1. And Ndombele was the only player.
Sonny was dropping almost back to right back, was he?
Well, at points of the game with 10 men, more left back, really.
Yeah.
But there were times he was having to go very deep into that area if he ended up switching with Lucas or whatever. There's no guarantee that this 3-4-2-1 will stay. I can see why he started that way. And I think it's because in terms of the makeup of the squad, you've got people like Lucas, Bergwijn, even Giovanni Lo Celso to a certain extent can play into that system. Whereas if you go 3-5-2, those players, you can't use them. You actually could only use them as wing backs or as central strikers. Is the only way you could use them. And let's be honest, what are they going to get? 10 minutes to give Son or Kane a break, or a little bit of rotation in Europe or domestic cup competition, right? So I don't think it's a given that what we saw last night, 3-4-2-1, is going to stick. Now, what he likes to do, as a lot of the great current managers do, is play two different systems, i.e. one with the ball, one without the ball. So based on last night, what you're getting in without the ball is something between 5-2-3 and 5-4-1, which then is designed in good attacking phases, basically becomes 3-2-5. The alternative thing he likes to do, if he plays two up front and plays 3-5-2, one of the midfield players drops in as a centre-back, the two wide centre-backs become full-backs, and the full-backs become wingers, and it becomes 4-2-4. And that's what he really likes to do, is that particularly. Again, the other problem to flip on the two behind the front man, look at the team last night, no Ndombele, no Lo Celso, no Ali. So if he stays with the 3-4-2-1, those players also, where are they going to get the minutes? It's going to be very, very difficult. Lo Celso's one who could possibly play in one of the two behind Harry Kane, but because Kane obviously doesn't have great pace, I feel like if he's going to play that system, he wants two quick players in and around that area, or let's say at least higher quality player than Lo Celso. At Chelsea, he obviously had Hazard and Pedro. Pedro was a workhorse, and there are similarities in comparing a Pedro to a Lucas Moura. Pedro is obviously a far better goal scorer than Lucas Moura ever will be. But in terms of the work ethic for the team, that kind of direct dribbling pace, there's similarities between the two players. And I guess you're comparing Hazard with Son. Son has this explosive nature in terms of his goal scoring ability, but peak Eden Hazard was best footballer in the league, right? And arguably in Europe at certain points in form. I mean, that season, 16-17 season under Conte, when Chelsea won the league, I think there's certain goals, like the goal he scored against Arsenal at Stamford Bridge, where he's isolated and he takes on the whole team basically by himself and scores. So I don't think it's a given that 3-4-2-1 will stay.
Sticks.
The given is, either way he does it, he's very, very promising for the wing backs. And the work those two players got through last night was phenomenal. They were Tottenham's two best players, in my opinion. Reguilon, through just sheer will and effort, and Emerson looked like he got stronger the longer the game got on. I've been saying to you on the Tottenham podcast, this boy's looking better every single game. Like there's an attacking player starting to come out of him. The second red card is obviously him getting onto a ball over the top, and obviously the keeper ends up saving it with his elbow. It was a bit unfortunate, but it was heading for goal potentially, so it had to be a red card. From the fan perspective, what I really enjoyed last night was getting involved. Do you know what? It was shit, but there was a game of football going on. Normally it's kind of mundane, slow stuff. The big thing that was very different from Tottenham in the first half last night was the tempo of passing play. So there were times I was trying to explain this to my dad during the game, because my dad's not a tactical head. He just kind of follows the ball and stuff. I said to him, does it feel like to you that Tottenham are passing the ball backwards a lot? And he said, no. And I said, well, basically, we are doing it exactly the same as we always do. It's just everything is happening at a quicker speed that it doesn't feel like it. So Tottenham players for the last couple of years are very ponderous on the ball. They take too much time in their decision making. The clear biggest difference of Conte last night was move the ball quicker, move it quicker. And there are already patterns of play that you can see emerging. So there's one pass which happened 3 or 4 times last night where basically the midfield's job is to split when the ball is at Eric Dier, and it allows Dier to play the chip ball into Kane to bypass the midfield. We're not talking to head height. I'm talking about literally chipping it into his feet and then getting obviously Son and Lucas very close and running off him from there. So there were some very pleasing aspects from that game last night. We never deserved to be 3-0 up in the first place. By the way, it's worth saying.
Yeah, I saw at the time. I mean, one of the things that I always look at is how many shots have you had on target? Like if it's 1 shot on target, 1 goal, then you kind of think, all right, they just blagged it. If it's like 7 shots on target with 2 goals, you think, okay, that you're peppering them. It was 4 shots on target, 3 goals when the third had gone in. I don't know if what you read from stats like that. It's a bit difficult without the context of the game, but it felt like
by the end of the game, we had 3 big chances and they had none. So I don't know what the XG was from last night, but I suspect Tottenham probably won on the XG. Let me tell you,
no doubt.
That Dutch team did not deserve to leave that stadium with nothing because they never should have been 3-0 down in the first place. They were far better than against our, let's call it A team, than what they were against the B team in Holland a couple of weeks ago. Suddenly there was this expressive team. They played with a 3 direct up front and were getting the ball into them quickly, which was causing a bit of carnage because obviously the job of Emerson and Reguilon as the designated wing backs here, and it's not a guarantee they'll stay either, by the way, is obviously they've got to get high in attacking phases. So if you can bypass the midfield, which Højbjerg can skip, he's a weak midfield. I don't care. Anybody can blow fucking Højbjerg's trumpets all day long. He's an average midfielder for what Antonio Conte is going to want longer term. You bypass that area and you're up against the back 3 that features Romero, who always wants to come and win the ball. And obviously, the one thing we got warned in the summer was he'd get sent off a few times. I mean, his second yellow is so dumb. Just let the man run. Deal with the problem. It actually would have been better if they'd have scored and made it 3-3 than him get sent off. Because I think we would have recovered in the game and they'd have gone, oh, yeah, we're happy with a draw here and stuff. Ben Davies is rubbish. Eric Dier is average. So the one thing from a fantasy perspective, if you're suddenly sitting there and looking at it and going, oh my God, Reguilon, Emerson, big attacking output and stuff, right now, there ain't going to be many clean sheets in that team. I don't care who we're playing, because that defensive back 3 is not good enough. It's bottom half level. And the one thing that Conte will very, very quickly realize is what I've been saying to everyone for a couple of years. This squad of players is bad. He needs a mass overhaul to turn this into anything that's going to be structurally dominant. Now, he's turned players who were nobodies. This is why he's an exceptional manager, who have suddenly become mainstays. Victor Moses is the obvious one that everyone references, right? Victor Moses has been on loan year after year after year. He ends up staying at Chelsea. He's like full 5th choice winger. They changed the system. Suddenly he's a regular right wing back. So, but can he get that sort of turn out of Ben Davies to be like the best left-sided centre-back in the league? Come on. I mean, that is an absolute must. So at the moment, he's got to play left-sided centre-back, in my opinion, because he's the only player in the squad who can naturally do that. And what was interesting about Davies, for those who've seen the goals last night, his underlapping run from left-sided centre-back, obviously he then has an abysmal shot at goal, leads to the 3rd goal. And he did that, whereas Romero on the right-hand side didn't do that. You know, when people say to me, Dier or Davies?
Yep.
Like it's a legit question at the moment, because Ben Davies is 4.4 and Eric Dier is 4.5. But I would be using these players as backups. And then look, Brentford at home, Norwich at home and stuff. Fine, you might want to use it. Game week 13 is a difficult set of fixtures for potentially for clean sheets. You might want to use them at Burnley away, for example. But you're getting them in as cover, I think, rather than, oh, I'm going to play Ben Davies or Eric Dier every week. Davies is interesting very suddenly because he's the only one who can naturally play left-sided centre-back. I don't see who else can play there in the same way. Like Rodon and Dier are not. I don't want Eric Dier stepping out because he does that and he thinks he's fucking Beckenbauer and he's not. Like, if you're going to play centre-back, stay as centre-back, mate. So I think Ben Davies at 4.4 could be very interesting. But he might look at that last night and go, shit, I'm going to have to accept that back three is going to struggle so badly for pace. I might have to compensate and play Davinson Sanchez there, for example. So there's no given. And as I said earlier, there's no given on the wing backs either, because the one I was debating was, could Lucas Moura kind of replicate what Victor Moses achieved at Chelsea? Again, in terms of that hard working up and down, but if it switches to a 3-5-2, it might be on. And then you could put Emerson to right-sided centre-back and it puts some pace into the back three. But I think, judging by last night, he wants to play Dier centrally and Romero as the right-sided centre-back, because I don't think he feels he can trust Romero yet to be stationary. That said, what did that Chelsea title-winning team have? David Luiz as the central of the back three. In terms of distribution and stuff, I've spoken about Dier into Kane and stuff. Actually, that pass is probably a little bit better if it's getting played by Romero, because Romero can ping it in a little bit quicker than Dier. What's your thoughts, Serge, on what you see and hearing?
What else did that? So, yeah, I mean, okay, based on what you said tactically, totally agree. The fullbacks, or wing backs, let's call them, in Emerson and Reguilon, with the only FPL kind of place I would go. Davis is not good enough. You're right, especially as he plays left-sided centre half for Wales sometimes. Davis, well, great. It's not really a glowing endorsement. I don't think he is good enough. Sanchez, I think Sanchez might be better off in the middle, or even Romero in the middle, Sanchez on the right, and stick Dier back on the left. Skip and Højbjerg against some of these bigger teams. I think Conte is going to lose his shit with them. Up front, I think you've got enough talented players.
I think he'll lose his shit with them more against weaker teams.
Yeah,
because they couldn't control the football match last night.
I'm intrigued to see if we get Newcastle, Kevin Keegan's Newcastle Mark II, where you're winning games 3-2, 4-3.
No,
you know, conceding a lot of goals.
Thing. No,
you don't think you?
No, well, he will fix them defensively, but it's going to take time.
Yeah,
and 2 days training is obviously not to judge it.
No, of course. I had I watched the West Ham game with my brother yesterday, and he said he was doing some reading on Conte and his spell at Inter and his spell at Chelsea as well. And you said, what did his title-winning spell at Chelsea have, and also at Inter Milan? And if you look back, he spent a lot of money at both of those places. A lot of money. Yeah. I mean, it's no doubt about it. I've got here, and anyone that can go on to Transfermarkt, for example, not only at Inter Milan most recently did they spend a lot of money on players, but they also got quite a few frees that were on big salaries as well. But Lukaku, Hakimi, Barella, Lazaro, and then you've got Alexis Sanchez came in there, Christian Eriksen was in there, and so on. So he got some big names into Inter Milan, and he also got some big names into Chelsea when he came in there, right? No joke, with some of the players he signed. Alvaro Morata, sure, but he had N'Golo Kante, David Luiz, Rudiger, Zappacosta, Marcus Alonso, Oli Giroud. All of these players came in under his reign.
And
he also signed some duffers.
There, isn't there?
Yeah, there's some shit ones as well.
Stuff, yeah.
Batshuayi, Drinkwater, and so on that haven't really made it. But so N'Golo Kante, David Rudiger, between the two of them,
David Rudiger
change a lot of teams.
David Rudiger and Antonio Luiz. Antonio Luiz sounds like he'd be a very good player.
Conte, Luiz, and Rudiger, basically those three have done well. Now, does he need? Is that my question? Does he need money?
Yeah,
to fix the squad.
Yeah, massively.
Will they give it to him? Because I don't. If they don't give him the money, then
it will.
There's no way of him getting Tottenham out of this kind of situation. He's not there. You can't hire a manager like Antonio Conte and then say, oh, by the way, mate, we're not giving you any money, because he's not going to be able to get you any better. So I'm just intrigued with the transfer window, and probably more next summer's transfer window than the January window, because that's always, a bit of a disappointment and a letdown. But I think he's going to need to spend a fair amount of money. I think that is the biggest fear, is that's when it's going to go a bit tits up. He's going to want certain players, they're not going to get them. And I don't think that's actually because they're going to disagree with the players he wants. I think they're going to be a bit stingy about it.
If they say no to him, it's going to be a war because he's going to walk out, and Daniel Levy cannot afford to lose Antonio Conte at the moment. Conte is not long-term Tottenham appointment. The one clear thing I've kind of found in my strategy is my research, is obviously players get on board with him or they're gone. Simple as that, right? You could be Harry Kane, Ben Davies. It doesn't matter who you are. You either get on board with what's happening or you're going to be out the door. But basically, after about 18 months to 2 years, the reason kind of Conte doesn't stay longer term is these players hit a wall because he's meticulous in his methods and he repeats drills over and over and over so that people kind of know what they're doing. And what happens is you get to this kind of 18-month, 24-month wall where basically the players then kind of repel against it. This is actually what happened with Pochettino at Tottenham. The players begin to repel against hearing the same voice and the same thing over and over. Now, in Pochettino's case, it was over the space of 5 years, basically, so a little bit different. But in Conte's case, it happens much sooner. 18 months to 24 months, the players kind of begin to put up a barrier where they're like, but I already know all this. But his frustration is, well, okay, but you still ain't fucking doing it. And that's why I keep showing you. And it leads to a little bit of a breakdown and friction. The other real problem he's going to have is the intensity with which he wants his teams to play. That's going to take some time to implement because they are the most unfit team in this league, as I've said several times over. And 2, playing twice a week is going to cause some problems. He is going to have to learn to very quickly rotate his team quite quickly because, and in this case, this is another danger with, say, Reguilon and Emerson. I've mentioned those 2 really attractive home fixtures, Brentford and Norwich. It's a Thursday night and a Sunday afternoon. And by the time that comes around, he might be looking at playing 2 different sets of wing backs. And that's purely because the work that those wing backs have to do is unbelievable. Honestly, the distance Emerson must have covered last night was right up there. And as I said, he got more powerful as the game went on. I actually think he's a live bet to go against Reguilon for those who do want to invest in fantasy. There's only 0.1 difference. And if you look at their points so far this season, it's 36 versus 8. It looks like there's no case to answer. But Reguilon's got 2 attacking returns, which kind of highlights the problem in terms of those attacking returns have come in games which Tottenham have conceded 5 goals in those 2 games where he's got attacking returns. And obviously Reguilon had the benefit of the 3 clean sheets at the start of the season, which Emerson wasn't a part of the squad. So the disparity between the 2 players is not as big as it looks. And I don't think there's much in that. I think there's probably a little bit more prospect from Reguilon, but I wouldn't be surprised if Emerson Royal really kicks on and actually becomes the one that it becomes quite interesting. Should we talk about Kane and Son? That's what people are really here for, isn't it?
I think Kane, to talk about give your short term, but I do think it's very, very, very early to make a statement like this. But if selling Kane next summer generated 100 million, let's say, and then Conte was in a good place where they said, look, okay, we'll get rid of Kane and you can buy 3 players without 100 million, or we'll top it up with another couple 100 million. If selling Kane is what will get Conte enough money to refurb the whole squad, I think they should do it. If you're happy with Conte, he's working well with the board and Paratici. I think, giving him the keys to refurb the squad is going to be important. And if that means selling Kane to generate £100 million, because that's the only way you can get all the money together, then I definitely think longer term, next summer, it should be very much on the cards. Bomb him out like it did Costa.
Well, that's very simple. Anybody saying, Tottenham should sell Kane or Tottenham should buy Kane, the decision will be Antonio Conte. If Conte says, sod it, sell him, then he'll get sold. Because they won't argue against him. I need the 125 million or whatever it be from selling Harry Kane. Fine, sell him. Someone's still got to pay that money, by the way, which nobody offered that amount of money last summer, as I said several times.
No, you're right. You're right.
So it'll be Conte's choice. And Antonio Conte has said several times over the years what he thinks of Harry Kane, and basically he would have loved to have taken him to Chelsea and wherever else, right? So I think we could probably believe into Conte will want to keep Harry Kane. I think if he gets to next summer and Conte's turning around to the board and says, I don't care, he's only got 2 years left on his contract, I want to keep him, I think if Tottenham sell him, he'll resign. That's where he would be at. Because I just think he'd go, no, sod that then. He doesn't care. He doesn't care about the compensation money. Or he go, I can't work with this. See you later. Yeah. So I don't disagree with your point, Serge, by the way, that in terms of that investment to then go and spend 150 million and go and get a brilliant set of 3 central defenders actually would probably do Tottenham better in the long term. Or to spend half of that money on someone could actually run the football match for Tottenham. I want to come back to Ndombele before we finish. Kane is not playing well. It's clear and obvious. By the way, neither's Heung-Min Son. By the way, neither's the majority of them at the moment. On the judgment of last night, Sonny looks the better prospect. But actually, the kind of big, which one shall I buy, Kane versus Son, probably depends on what you want to do with the player. So I see many people kind of going for Kane at the moment in fantasy because they're looking at it and going, well, I've got the money there ready for Ronaldo and I can punt Harry Kane as a major differential currently with 5 very good fixtures to come. And at the moment, Everton are not in a good place. So we have to actually put that in there as a reasonable fixture, better than it would be if, say, Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Yerry Mina and Abdoulaye Doucouré were fit, for example. Everton are weakened at the moment. So the next 5 fixtures, you can punt Harry Kane. And I think you've got a preset idea then, right? Norwich at home, 15's, last one. Then you're moving to Ronaldo for his brilliant Christmas. Yes, you miss Ronaldo against Arsenal and Palace. But I think that seems to be the number one reason why people are going to Kane at the moment. There is also the argument to say he's explosive. He'll always be explosive if he can get in and around the penalty area. And there's the 5 great fixtures, punt it. And you've got the space for another premium because you're captaining Mo Salah nearly every week anyway, right?
Yep.
You don't actually have that pressure to have to captain Harry Kane at the moment. Like, you can just still go with Kane is a big enough differential. You do not need to stick the armband on him like me and Suj did with Kai Havertz a couple of weeks ago. I don't think we're going to be doing that again. The one really to punt Kane would arguably game week 15. Salah goes to Wolves. Kane's got Norwich at home. Then, there's a real argument there. And the same applies to Sonny. In Sonny's case, I don't think Harry Kane doesn't look right now as if you could put him in and he'll be there all season. Like, I don't think anybody believes that. Whereas with Sonny, it's far more viable to look at him and say, can he stay in my team all season? Yes. Yeah, I think. It's difficult for me to make the case of Kane is a better asset right now than Son. In terms of average positioning last night, Son's a little bit higher, but there is an impact on that as well. It's easy to look at that afterwards because obviously at 10 men, when he eventually changed the system to a 5-3-1, obviously Kane played up front on his own and Kane's coming into his own penalty own half and winning numerous free kicks. It's how he got the first red card, right? His gamesmanship. He didn't play well last night, but when we went down to 10 men, he went into full on, I need to win free kicks desperately to slow this game down. And it ended up with one of their players getting sent off. And that aspect of his game certainly goes against the he doesn't care narrative. Number 9's in Antonio Conte's setup is very important. When I say to you, Diego Costa, Romelu Lukaku, and how well these players did, it would be very naive at the moment to write Harry Kane off. Now, I think the issue with him at the moment is he was obviously very unhappy with not getting the move. He was unhappy with the way Tottenham were playing under Nuno Espirito Santo. And at the moment, like the rest of the team, because nobody's bothered with it for 2 years, they are massively unfit. And that's Conte's biggest job first. And I think once he gets them fit, and he's going to work them so hard, it will come quickly, I think, Tottenham will start having some very good results. But in the short term, I think it could still be very erratic. I think Tottenham are just as capable of going to Everton and losing 3-0 as winning 3-0 this weekend. I actually think because Everton are in a bad spot, we'll probably go there and win, actually. And then the 4 fixtures afterwards are all winnable as well. And then suddenly, as I said to you on Wednesday's Patreon podcast, suddenly you're in a top 4 race. And then he's got the belief of he'll get the belief from the fans anyway. The fans have to realize this man needs to implement his methods, and it's going to take some time because a lot of the squad is so bad. Just quickly, so a few players we haven't mentioned. Dele Alli, is a player I think that could fit into one of those two behind Harry Kane if he plays 3-4-2-1. That's probably the best way of getting Dele involved. Otherwise, it's not going to work for him. And Ndombele is a lot of people that think, and I use the analogy which the Athletic could use, is either he's going to dominate games for Tottenham or Conte will throw him out the training ground in a cannon. But last night, when he needed to put another midfield player onto the pitch because Højbjerg and Skip could not pass the ball more than 10 yards to each other, he didn't choose Lo Celso. He didn't choose Dele Alli. He chose Ndombele, trusted Ndombele when Tottenham went down to 10 men. But I don't know if you can play Ndombele in a 2, in kind of a 3-4-3. And that's the other thing that makes me think that this might, in the coming weeks, move back to a 3-5-2. And I can see it being something like Højbjerg, Lo Celso and Ndombele, with then Heung-Min Son playing right up front with Harry Kane. And that's the other thing that obviously adds to the prospect of Son, because once Son plays in that position, his job is obviously the ball goes into Kane, you go and hit the space. And that's where Sonny can obviously be devastating if the pass is right. So I think Sonny is probably the better choice in terms of buying Son or Kane if someone wants to do it right now. But I think the answer really lies in, for fantasy managers, what their squad setup is and what it means for them in the short and the longer term. It's close enough that I wouldn't stress about it. Like if your desperation is to have the path to Ronaldo, I would just go Kane. If you're in a clear mindset that, do you know what, the forwards aren't doing it, I don't want Ronaldo in that period, I want a front three in kind of Antonio, Tony, Wilson level, Jimenez, whatever, go with Son. So I think it's down to fantasy managers. And obviously the chances are you are going to want Ronaldo kind of game week 15, 16. So what's your plan? Is Son then your cash cow? Is it going to be that selling Son becomes a -4 to get Ronaldo? Then you're back in, can Son score 5 or more points than Kane over this period? Yeah, of course he can, but Kane could outscore him by a lot more than that, right?
Yeah, that's true as well.
So I think both are very good and reasonable buys in the next couple of weeks. I've seen a lot of people on my timeline talking about captaining them this weekend. I don't agree with that personally. Like, I actually think there are better alternative options outside of Mo Salah. I would say Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and I think even this weekend, Jamie Vardy as well, would both be better captainable options. I see people talking about going Vardy to Kane now. Don't sell Vardy before Leeds away, please. So not a captainable option, but then in the forthcoming weeks, they might be. Most people are going to have at least one. My strategy, even under Nuno, was to have both from game week 12. I've got Kane now. I could force Son in for a -4. I'm not going to be doing that. I've got Salah, Rafinha, and Buemo, Havertz, and Jota. Like, none of them are going this week for me, not with Firmino's injury as well. So Son will find his way in for game week 12 for Havertz for me. That's my plan. Kane has been there already for a couple of weeks. What's your plan with him?
Kane's already in. I have 2 free transfers this week. And I don't really have any transfers that I want to necessarily make. I also don't have enough money to turn Havertz into Son. Kane stays throughout the good run of fixtures right now. Son, I'm on the fence. And I think my decision to buy Son will be swayed by, do I think I can find the money somewhere? Am I going to go from Antonio to Hwang, for example, and just keep it cheap and just power the money in and go for it? Or am I going to try and keep the butter spread nice and evenly over the bread and not actually go for it? So Kane stays throughout. Son will be, if I find myself with luxury moves to make money to reinvest, that's what I will do. Yeah.
Lucas Moura would be really, really punty at 6.4. The reality is Lucas does not get the attacking returns that he should. I couldn't make the case for him over, say, Rafinha at a similar price. I would rather have Emil Smith-Rowe at 0.7 cheaper or whatever the difference is. So Lucas would be a no. On the defensive ones, on the serious, because I know I'm going to get Dier or Davies. Actually, at this minute in time, I would take a chance on Ben Davies because of the underlapping run potential. But generally use it as a substitute. If you want one of the wing backs, the majority of people are going to go Reguilon because what they've seen, his potential for attacking returns and we've only kind of seen it last couple of weeks with Emerson. I would possibly gamble with Emerson, actually.
He's cheaper, isn't he? He's 4.9.
It's 0.1 difference. It's neither here nor there.
It's not really.
But I actually, Emerson, I feel like something's coming, actually. And I think he might be the one. I think that's very close. I don't think it's obvious to go Reguilon over him. I really, really don't.
Yeah. There we go. A quick rundown on Spurs. I know it's very
don't
early.
Expect
listeners.
fucking clean sheets. Madness.
Yeah, exactly that. So that's why I wouldn't go with any of the centre backs. We'll know more. James is travelling all the way up to Merseyside on Sunday. It's basically Planet FPL versus Merseyside on Sunday, isn't it? Spurs against Everton, West Ham against Liverpool. So yeah, bring it on. Bring on the scouts. Let's see if we can, if London can beat.
If anyone wants to come and say hello, I'll be with a couple of lads. Probably, I think in O'Neill's probably about 11:30 to 12:30 on Sunday.
Perfect.
In Liverpool, but that'll be about it.
There we go. And of course, if you want to support the show, head over to patreon.com/Planet FPL, where today we'll be releasing the differential show. James will be live at 5:30. 5:30? Deadline stream? 5:30?
Yes, 5:30. Yeah.
And then we'll be back again next week with a full week of content. But it is obviously international break, so we might mix it up. Anything else to add, James?
Can you Spurs?
Stay safe. Ciao for now.
Cue music, please, man, child.